Welcome to Brave with Lisa YouTube channel. My name is Lisa Bruton and my goal is to inspire you to live bravely in that unique rhythm of grace that God has designed just for you. On this channel, we are going to be hearing from amazing people from all different walks of life who are bravely walking in that unique rhythm of grace and calling that God has designed just for them. I know that as we hear their stories, we are going to learn a lot. We're going to find keys that are going to help us to also walk bravely in that unique rhythm of grace and that unique calling that God has just for you and for me. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Brave with Lisa YouTube channel. My name is Lisa Bruton and today I have my really special friend Tam. Tam and I go back a few years now and she has been in my world and she's an absolute delight and a ball of joy, and she carries just a heart for people and a heart for God, and so I'm really excited for us to hear from her today. And yeah, so welcome Tam.
Hello. Hi, Lisa. Hello. It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me on your channel.
Yes. Oh, it's such an honor to have you. I've been wanting to have you on for a while. And so it's so great that we've finally been able to coordinate a time.
Yes.
Tam, can you share with everyone who's listening in just what does your world look like?
Okay. Well, I'm married. I have been married for 22 years this year, and I've got two kids, a daughter who's nearly 16 and starting to drive this year, which is really exciting, and a boy as well who is 14. So I've got two kids, married. I work full-time as an associate pastor at Hope Community Church in Burpengary. So that takes up quite a bit of my time as well. My husband and I are very creative. So right now where I'm sitting in his studio. It's our studio, but he kind of says it's my studio, but I'm sitting in his music studio. And currently I'm building my studio on the other side of the house, which is going to be my art studio. So when you walk into our house, you are walking into a creative home with paintings everywhere and musical instruments everywhere. And but we love it. It's something that we both have in common. So we are creative as well. And yeah, we just love holidaying. I love doing things with the family, organizing holidays away with the kids and the family and with the hubby. So yeah, with all of that, I think that takes up a bit of my time.
Now, Tam is the associate pastor at one of my most favorite churches that I have ever been to, and it's just such a yummy church. So if anyone lives near, it's Narangba, isn't it?
Burpengary.
Sorry. If anyone lives near Burpengary and is looking for a church, I cannot recommend this church, more, it's just fantastic. So love your church.
I like how you described it, Lisa. You said a yummy church. I'm like, I think that's my first. That's awesome. I like that. Love it.
Anything that I absolutely love, it becomes yummy. And that's how I describe it. It's yummy.
Great.
So Tam, I know that, like you said, your world's full and it's fabulous. And you also have, I know this because I know you, and but you have a passion for prophetic art.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And I would love to kind of explore this side of things because it's not something that is widely well known, but it is so powerful. Could you share, I guess, anything you want about it, but maybe your journey behind it first?
Yeah, I would love to share my journey in a very quick, we could be here for hours. So I know that time we want to make this a quick episode, but I've always been creative. I grew up in a creative home. So my mum was very creative. I grew up with mum bringing a different hobby into the house. Like every 6 months, she was making necklaces. Then she was sewing. Then she was doing something else. And I just saw all of this come into the house. So I grew up with that. And I was creative in my bedroom. And ladies out there, you probably, as a little girl, you might as well too, like be sitting in your bedroom and being creative. And so I grew up with that, but it wasn't I didn't do art at school, didn't do art at high school, didn't study it in any way. But it wasn't until I was 23, so a few years, like about 19 years ago, that I just happened to be in the room when my husband's mother, so my mother-in-law, she was passing with cancer, and we went and lived with her in this secluded cottage down in Victoria to be with her in her final days. And I just happened to be in the room when my husband said to her, she was an artist, she was a landscape artist and in oils, and we were caring for her, but there was nothing else. We weren't leaving the cottage. We were just full-time caring for her. And my husband wanted something to do as well, to help our, everyone's mental health at the time. So he just said, Mum, can you teach us how to paint? And so we started painting in this secluded cottage with my sister-in-law, my husband, my mother-in-law. And that was the very first time I sat down and was taught by my late mother-in-law now, how to paint in oils. And so when I walked away from that cottage, I was, it was very sad occasion, really sad occasion. But I remember walking out of that cottage, looking at the trees differently, looking at the clouds differently, looking around at my surroundings differently. And that started a journey for the last 20 years. I've journeyed in hobby art. So like many people, they might do it in their spare time. I did that for many years. And then I felt God call me to commercial art. So I did commercial art for 4 years, and I was gung-ho with creating an art business and gallery representation. And I want to be in galleries, all around here. And I ended up getting into Red Hill Gallery in Brisbane for about 6 months, but that was a goal of mine at the time. But then in 2014, so about 8 years ago, I was actually on a holiday in Fiji. My mum had also just passed. And we went to Fiji for her anniversary, for 1 year anniversary. And I heard God impress on my heart at that time, I want you to surrender your art business and come and paint for me. Wow. And so that was a wrestle, because I was like, I have worked really hard to try to build things. And it was like, I just felt his hand was out, and he said, I'd love you to surrender it and come and paint for me. And around that same time, I wasn't a pastor at that time, but my pastor at the time, I know he was, planting those seeds as well. And I think I remember him saying, have you ever thought about prophetic art? Because they really champion it as well. And I just remember thinking, but I want to paint what I want to paint. Like, if God tells me to paint something and I don't know how to paint it, like, that's not going to be fun. Like, I want to paint what I want to paint. But it was just these little seeds, and then this call from the Lord. And it was when I was a bit burnt out with art, didn't feel like going into my studio to paint, doing way too many commissions for people. The gallery, they were telling me what to paint, and it was like all the joy was just being ripped out of me. And it was in that moment I was chatting with another friend at the time, one of my mentors. And I remember her words when I was just chatting with her, and she said, and I was sharing how my heart was heavy, don't find it fun anymore, don't have any joy, don't have any enthusiasm for it. And I just remember her words that morning. She said, Tam, all pressure is off. I believe the Lord's just wanting you to come away and just paint with him. And I just felt all this pressure just lifted off that morning from her house. And I remember driving home and just leaping into the studio with all this joy back, going, okay, I'm going to paint with you, God, now. And that has then been a journey with painting in church services. Probably before I was a pastor, painting what I believe the Lord was showing me to paint for my heart first. It's always for our heart first, and then to release it to the congregation, which has been so much fun. So I've done that journey for about 7 years now. Because I'm in a new role, I have a team of prophetic artists at our church. So there's about 5 of them. I'm in a season where I love just training, looking out for people who might want to step into that, and helping them explore it as well. So that's a quick journey with it.
That's amazing. I love that, Tam. So can you share with us, when you say that you kind of paint what you feel like God's placed on your heart, do you, how does that work? Do you get a picture that you then paint, or do you paint with him and see what happens?
Both.
Yeah.
For me, it's both. I was actually just chatting with another artist this morning, and she was just sharing with me how hers is a bit different, her journey. So for me, it is both. Right now, just my journey with it. A lot of his creation, I get inspired by a lot of his creation. So when I start praying, so for example, if I wanted to paint at an encounter service at one of our services next week, if I'd like to do that, I will just start asking the Lord. I'll just start chatting with him. Lord, what would you like me to paint? What would you like me to release to people there? And then sometimes it might come quickly, but other times I might find things starting to be highlighted in my world. So I'm a little bit of a mix of how I hear from God. Sometimes I might see things. So at the moment, I'm seeing a lot of dragonflies at the moment. They're just everywhere around me. So in all different ways, I can hear from, obviously the word, from people's words, from impressions, but his gentle whispers that you do, have to get out some of that noise from your life to just hear those gentle whispers. And then I might get a visual in my mind. I might get a picture. Sometimes that it's a bit daunting because the pictures in my mind, I'm like, oh, that looks really good. But I can't do that, Lord. So sometimes it is a picture, and then just coming with like, okay, Lord, you have to help me get this out. And, to express it that way. And then other times I have had other experiences where I'll feel in my heart the pull to come and paint. And I don't know what I'm going to paint. And it's an experience of, I'm just going to go and play with paint. And I think as adults, some adults chatting with adults more and more, some people weren't given the permission to play as a child, because I've heard so many stories, especially at my creative collective nights, where they grew up in an environment where getting a mess on the dining room table or getting a mess in the house, they weren't allowed to get paints out and just be messy.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it is just coming away and playing with paint. And actually, one that I did for you last year, that was when I was away at the mountains, and I just was like, I'm just going to play with paint. And then it just turned into fruit. And I'm like, and then I just start chatting with the Lord about it, going, oh, this is looking all right. Like, this is okay. This might be for someone. And then the more and more I paint, he'll slowly whisper, like, it's fruit. Okay, it's fruit. All right, cool. Well, this is looking really cool. I'd love to bless someone with it. And then my conversation with him was, all right, well, Lord, this is a fruit. It's beautiful fruit. I want to bless someone with this. Who is it that has got fruit in their life and blah, blah. And he was like, Lisa. And he was like, I want you to give that to Lisa. I'm like, okay, Lord, well, this was unexpected. So it's both, and it's fun.
And it's one of my favorite pieces, and it blessed my heart so much. And God had been talking to me about fruit. So it was all just, it's incredible how he does that, and how he uses so many different ways to encourage and affirm us. And Tam, I have a question. So you know how you said, like, first of all, it's for your heart. Do you find that when you paint things, you get like, wow, a revelation or a fresh understanding of who you are or who God is? Like, does things come out? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you share it? Maybe a story or just a bit more about that?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I was just chatting with, I just had all of the prophetic artists over to my home last Thursday night, and we were around my dining room table just sharing stories and just helping them on their journey, because some have just started, some have just stepped into this. And I said, you know what, for all of us, this will be healing for our own hearts. Like, yes, we think we're getting up there and painting, and it's worship to God, it's ministering to the people, but it's actually going to be really healing and bring breakthrough for your own heart. And yeah, I have found that all of my pieces since 2014, all of my large scale pieces. So I've got a website, and I've got all of them on there. They are paintings in season for my own life. So as I scroll back through those paintings, I'm like, oh, I remember that season. Yes, I needed that to, break chains. That was a helpful piece for me in that season. But I think the last one that I just did was fruit. It was called Fruit. Yours was a little practice go, and then I started on a very large piece. So I try and work on one large piece a year. And so last year for 2021, I was painting fruit for about 9 months. And every time I went away into the shed and picked up the paintbrush, at first, when I felt to paint fruit, I just got one instruction from him, and he's like, paint big, bold fruit and lots of it. And I want you to paint, he said, I want you to paint the fruit in. I want you to paint the fruit in. And I was like, okay. So I started painting the fruit, and I was thinking of that verse, go and bear good fruit, like that commissional fruit, like the fruit that you'll know them by their fruit, the fruit in your lives that you can see. So that was kind of my inspiration at the start. But as I continued painting that piece, I got about 4 or 5 months in, and I think I shared this with you at the time, Lisa, that it was like it just shifted, and it was like the same word that I think you got, because I remember coming up to your house, and you shared that to me, and then I experienced it as well. And it was like, yes, that fruit is good, but let's have a look at that character fruit of the Spirit. And then so it shifted from that verse, and then it went on to the fruits of the Spirit verse. And so then as I was painting, I was just dwelling on the fruits of the Spirit. And in my heart, I was like, you know what? That's what we should be chasing the fruits of the Spirit in our own heart, that character fruit, because everything else, flows out of that. So there was some nights where I had worship music on, and there was a song, and it was like, His goodness is running after me. And there was one night where I had to just stop painting, and I just laid on the floor with this song, and I was having an encounter and just sensing His goodness. And I think it was the song I Shall Not Want. And I just remember coming out of the studio saying to the family, I shall not want. We've got His goodness, and His mercy is flowing out. And they're like, okay, Mum's had an encounter. Like, what's God been doing now?
Oh, that is gorgeous.
Yeah, just dwelling on those beautiful fruits of the Spirit. He was talking to me in that way. So every piece, I'm just about to start this year's piece, and I know that there'll be something in it for me first, but it's one way I come away with the Lord and paint. Yeah. So if that helps.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. So is there times where you find it hard to paint?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think if you speak to any artist, any creative person, you do hear that word block or blockages. I don't tend to use that word myself for some reason. I haven't really picked it up in my vocab, but I kind of just say it's not happening today. Like that's like the lingo that my family hear a bit. Like it's not happening today. And so yeah, I just 2 weeks ago actually, while I was in ISO, I wanted to do a painting for someone, and I tend to do little watercolors if I feel like someone's on my heart and I want to paint something for them to bless them. And I sat down out the back, and I just started getting the watercolors out, and usually it's a beautiful experience. And then I just started, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's not happening today. And so I kind of flicked that page over and put it over there. And then I tried again, and I'm like, oh, nah, it's not happening. And then I tore that page and I threw it over there, and I did another page, and I'm like, oh, nah, it was 4 pages. And then I was like, you know what? It's not flowing. It's not happening today. And I'll just leave it, and I'll go and find something else, and I'll come back to it another time. So there are times that it's part of that creative process where some things do not flow. And I think the main thing is, same with my husband. If he's writing songs and it's not flowing, he's, he has the same moments. You can get frustrated, you can get annoyed. But I think if you don't beat yourself up and not too hard on yourself, and just go, you know what, I'm just going to pop that aside and I'll come back and try again. I think that's, one way that I kind of process that. Yeah.
No, that's good. And
Yeah.
and from just listening to you, it sounds like pretty much anyone can paint, like as in paint prophetically, but it's just like you said, playing and kind of getting outside of that comfort zone. Because I know I sit down to a piece of paper with paints or pencils or whatever it is, and I can go,
yeah,
I don't know where to start. So what would be your tips on starting and, enjoying that side of God?
Yeah. I think to start, I think to give it a go, and just to start is huge, because even just starting, even just, you got out the paints and you got out the paper, that's starting. Like sometimes you find there's such a battle to even get the paints out and get the paper out. And I still experience that, being a mum and, having a house, I can look around the house going, well, the washing needs to be done. That needs to be done. That needs to be done. And there is such a battle sitting down and getting the paints out. So I think that's the first, step of start. Head to, any of those stores with some cheap paper and some paints, and just come away with the Lord and paint. And I think color too is quite powerful. Even if you didn't see yourself as creative, I think there's something really powerful of sitting down with the Lord and getting out a piece of paper. And even if it's just coloring that piece of paper blue or green, or there's such a healing in it, that start, like just to start is good. And to, if you've got a friend that's creative, I know that, I've got a group messenger chat now. So I've got, 6 other creatives, that if you know one person that's creative, that can be your little cheerleader as well. But to not be afraid of the paper and not to be afraid of the canvas, and pour it out to him. And like I say to the other artist, like last Thursday night, I was just sharing, we're not our mission. We're not making masterpieces. That's not his call. Like we don't have to produce something that's amazing and that you want to see in the galleries, or, that's not our call. Our call is to hear from the Lord, to ask for his help to create something that will bless our hearts first, but then to bless others. But even, that's another call. Not everyone, they might not be doing it in church, but just in people's own quiet time, journaling, like the Bible journaling where you can draw pictures. I I've blessed, someone last year with some watercolors and paper, and they've, haven't done it much, and it just sparked them again. So just to start simple. And yeah, like looking back now and some of the stuff that I created 18 years ago, like I'd be like, oh my goodness, but it's a journey, and just to practice, but not to put pressure on yourself, and just be like a child. How children, we can learn a lot from children. Children sit down at a piece of paper, they pick up a coloring in pencil and they go for it. They have no fear. They're not sitting there, going, oh, should I do this or should I do that? And what is that?
It's so true.
Yeah, just be childlike. Just be
Mm.
childlike in it. And you'd be amazed of what he will lead and guide you with it. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's such a good tip too. And it's so true. You do watch your children and they're just like, and you give them big pieces of paper, and the bigger the better. And they just
Yes.
love it and they feel it. And it's just,
Yeah.
how did you do that? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. They have no fear.
No, and
Yeah.
that's probably a big thing too, that performance and
Yeah.
not having to perform or for anyone. It's just
Yeah.
between you and God.
Yeah.
Having fun. I know that when I journal, so I like to write, but sometimes God shows me pictures, and so
Yes.
I'll just try and
Yes.
draw it out. But
Yes.
it actually stands out, and it helps me understand what I'm
Yes.
seeing as well,
Yes.
even though it's not
Yes.
great and it's
Yes.
definitely not for public eyes.
Yeah.
It helps.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's one big lie out there too that I often find when I chat with creatives or people are starting out. They think it's cheating if you Google. So for example, Lisa, if in your quiet time you wanted to draw a tree, some people have this mindset of like, if you Google a tree and print out a tree and then just look at it and maybe use it as a reference, that's cheating. I just want to say that is not cheating. Lots of artists, it's called a reference. And if you go into artist studios, you'll see just pictures of beauty, pictures of, God's creation, of animals, and they're taking pictures, and it's their reference that they use for their eye. So there's many artists out there with different techniques, but lots of people stop because they say, oh, well, that's cheating and I'm not creative. No, you're using your resources well.
Yes. That's so good to kind of demyth that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Tam, you are a legend. I know that, like you said, you've got a website where people can come and view your work, and I've got, I love my pieces. So where can people find you and find your work?
Yeah. If I've just got a hub, it's like a hub. I don't sell any of my work anymore. I've just felt the Lord call me into a new journey. What I do love is painting and popping them on my website for God to use and to release a little prayer with them. And then we do at our church have little prints of some as well. But on my website, tamarahaddonart.com, you can find just stories, testimonies of how God can use art to heal, encourage, bring breakthrough. There's some really cool testimonies on there, and the gallery's there for all my pieces with a prayer released with them. But I'm just enjoying hearing from the Lord, painting a little piece and popping it in the mail and it arriving in someone's letterbox. That brings me joy. That brings me, and it's fun. So, but apart from that, it's all on the website that you can go and look at some, art that he's, inspired.
Oh, thanks. So Tam, if someone was like, okay, something's really stirring here, I would love to understand or explore this a bit further. Is there a way that they can connect with you?
Yeah. On my website, there's a contact page. I love helping people. I love these conversations. So I'm open to chat with anyone. I'm really keen, if they do fellowship and if they do go to church somewhere, if they do want to look at how they can do that in their church, I'm really open to encouraging them and asking all the questions that come with it. But anything, anything. I'd love to, connect in any way.
Oh, thanks, Sam. Thank you for sharing and just kind of imparting this to us as well. And I know it's making me want to go and grab my cake now.
Yes.
Well, thank you, my friend, for sharing. And I just love you dearly.
Oh, you too.
do.
You too. Thank you for having me, Lisa. Yeah. Bless you.
Bless you. Bye. Thanks for joining me on Brave with Lisa. I hope that it has inspired or impacted you in a small or large way. Feel free to comment, to subscribe, and share with some friends. And please join us next week on another conversation we will have here on this channel on Brave with Lisa.